regard to a landowner. I mean, I'm not suggesting anything should be changed, but in a lot of these drains, it's fairly obvious that or to me it is, that the landowners are getting a pretty good deal.
Yes, this is a fairly, I wouldn't say unique situation, but it's one where most of the drain is entirely along the road, and a portion of how the drain is constructed and why we're going the full length, and even the original decisions back in the 50s of where to take the drain were made, and that was to go along the road. And when you do that sort of thing, you end up having to cross the roads and avoid objects along the road, things like that. So there is more, and I'll say benefit. There's different types of assessment. There's benefit, which is statutory benefit, which is better control of surface water, better control of subsurface water. So it's a visual benefit. There is special assessment, which is separate. And under Section 26 of the Act, any road, railway, or utility has to pay the increased cost above and beyond what would have been constructed if that road or railway didn't exist. So if you were building a tile in a field, you would have spent a certain amount of money. But as soon as this other infrastructure was built, you have to spend more. So we have to calculate what it actually costs to get across the road, and then subtract what we would have spent if the road wasn't there. And that increased cost is allocated as a special assessment. So in this case, we are crossing Centerville Drive, and we are also crossing Pratt Siding. The type of construction as well can have an impact. And when we bore pipes and we jack and bore pipes underneath the road to avoid open cutting asphalt, it's more costly to do that, but it does not leave a patch. And a lot of road departments, most road departments, try to avoid it if they can. If there's a resurfacing cycle of recommendation coming up within the next couple of years, you know, sometimes we see road departments say, no, just cut through it with a patch. But even patching asphalt itself can get expensive. So there's not a lot of savings to try and do that. And then you are left with the patch. So all those increased costs are identified. They are an actual cost special. So we actually identify the values of the dollars spent afterwards, separate them out individually, whereas the regular costs are prorated. So you take the final cost and prorate them over all of the parties' assessments, except those specials, because they do tend to vary more than what the individuals are. They are large assessments, and it is acknowledged on this drain. There's a number, some large assessments to the roads. We do have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 catch basins, which are all at the road. Structures have gone up a lot in the last few years too. So, we have even started considering at times where you don't have a lot of water of even using plastic catch basins rather than concrete catch basins. But, cost of structures is significant in this case. So, that's the main reason why you see what you see.
Okay, Mike, thank you. Before we go on with questions, are there any affected property owners who are present that have any questions with regard to this? Please don't hesitate to put your hand up or come forward. Seeing none, we'll continue on. Requests from those present to add or remove their name from the petition. I see none. And we'll continue now with comments from councillors. Any questions, council? Seeing none, the time for decision is here. The recommendation the council accepts the engineer report in reference to the Black Drain 2023 and refer the bylaw to the bylaw section of the agenda for first and second reading. Is there a mover and a seconder? Councillor Vink, Councillor Choi. Last call for questions. All in favor? Carried. And the Moore Goff Drain 2023, Mike, you could entertain that, please. Oh, Dymic Drain. I'm sorry, Dymic Drain. Yep, Dymic Drain. Go ahead, Mike, on the Dymic. And Councillor Choi has declared a conflict of interest on this.
Yes, similar to the last report, this report was prepared in accordance with Section 78 of the Drainage Act for repair and improvement to the existing Dymock drain. It was originally constructed in 1951 through an engineer's report. The bottom portion of the tile was repaired and improved through a small report in 2008 to improve the outlet of the existing tile. But not the most of the tile drain upstream or the channel downstream of that. The landowners requested that the original drain be replaced due to its age and condition and size, and that surface inlets be installed along the way to capture as much surface water as we can. We did find that the channel has significant grade and has some erosion on it, and we are recommending some erosion control measures within the channel to try and help slow the water down. They're almost like steps where the water then would go slow and flat between the steps and then drop down where there is stone protection to remove the energy of the water as it's going down the channel. And I'd stop and open up the question.
Okay. Questions from any affected property owners or any of their representatives from the floor? I'll just give you a minute. Yes, there's one at the back, and please come forward and state your name for the record, and Alan will make sure you're comfortable there, or Kristen. Okay.
Question on the erosion control. Has there been any consideration at the out the downstream edge of that property?
No, the municipal drain goes maybe another 100 meters and then stops, and then it's a natural water course. We went as far as a point, maybe about 70 meters downstream of the existing crossing at that point, and then we terminated. If people want to go further, you could, but we didn't get any requests either at the on-site meeting or at the preliminary meeting, so we didn't have any instruction to go further.
Okay, thank you. And another point, just a request, if there's any excavation material surplus, there's a private drain that needs some fill for a repair. And if that material is just put on the north side of the drain so that they could utilize that for that repair, that would be appreciated.
Okay, yeah, perhaps you can make a note of that, Mike. Okay, thank you very much. Are there any other questions from affected property owners? Yes, go ahead. Please come up if you'd like, or if you, yeah. I will let Kristen, can you answer that? Or Mike would, are you referring to I'll let Mike answer that, and our treasurer is here, and she seems eager to go to the mic. So I think I'll let you take it, Kristen.
Sure, I can. Once all the work is completed, we will issue an invoice. And if it is over $500, we'll send a separate invoice. You can choose to debenture it on your taxes if you'd like over a period of years. Otherwise, if it's a smaller amount, we'll just put it directly on your tax bill.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You will if it's significant, yes. If it's over
It's your
500.
choice whether
Yes.
you want to put it on your taxes. Yeah.
So how are we gonna let you know if you want to sell for it?
If it's over $500, we'll send you a separate invoice. And
You-
then you can choose if it's too much to pay all at once. You can let us know and we'll apportion it over several years.
Yep,
Yeah.
just advise us what you want to do. Yeah.
And get it granted?
I believe so, yes, and yeah. Yep, Kristen,
We apply for the grant and bill you for the net amount.
yeah, we apply for that grant on their behalf.
Yes.
So you don't have to worry about that, okay? And in addition to that, our drainage superintendent, Mike DeVos, has some input here as well. Mike, please go ahead.
With the granting, your property has to be receiving the farm tax rebate on your taxes to be
Mhm.
considered agricultural. It's an agricultural grant provided by the Ministry of Ag and Food. So if you get the farm tax rebate on your taxes, you are eligible for it. If you do not, then your property is not eligible to receive that.
Okay. Any other questions from the gallery? And a request from those present to add or remove their names from the petition. And council, it is your turn to ask any questions, should you have any. Seeing none, it is our time to make a decision. There is a recommendation before you that the engineer's report in reference to the Diamond drain be referred to the bylaws and bylaws section for first and second reading. Is there a mover and a seconder for this recommendation? Deputy Mayor Schuldice, seconded by Councillor McCollum. Any questions? All in favor? Carried unanimously. We are on the drainage number 3, the Moore Goff Drain 2023. Considering the report by Street and Associated, Mike, can you walk council through this, please?
Yes, thank you. Again, similar to the two previous reports, this report was prepared in accordance with section 78 for repair and improvement to the existing Moore Goff drain. It was a drain that was constructed in 1942. And it's basically all tile drain. It has a main drain and about 4 branch drains. The request was to replace the existing main drain and then abandon the existing branches. The branches generally serve mostly one property. So the landowner requested that they be abandoned and then be reverted to private pipes. They will no longer have municipal drain status. So we are recommending that the existing tile be replaced with a larger tile, somewhat deeper, to provide better drainage for the area. There will be catch basins put in several places to capture surface water along the way. We do have to cross the town line road in Innerdale Drive, as well as the Hydro One network line. They do want access for vehicles, so we do have to put in a sewer pipe and granular material. We did receive some questions from Ontario Hydro, or Hydro One, and we provided responses to them. They, in the last year or two, they have been asking that we go through a provincial review process that they have to review these things. So there's a little bit more work than what there used to be in providing and getting approvals to actually construct the drain across that particular right of way. And I'll stop and open up to questions.
Okay, any questions from affected property owners who are present? Seeing none, requests for those present to add or remove their name from the petition? Seeing none, comments or questions from members of council directed to Mike? Are there any? Seeing none, council's decision that the time for decision making, the recommendation put forth that council accept the engineer's report in reference to the Moore Goff Drain 2023 and refer the bylaw to the bylaw section of the agenda for first and second reading as we close the meeting. Is there a mover and a seconder for that? Don McCollum. Councillor Vink. Questions? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Okay, Mike, thank you very much for your work. We kept you busy tonight there. And we thank you very much.
Thank you. Good evening.
Yep. We have a lot to unpack yet, council, so we'll mush on here. 8B administration report. National Day of Truth and Reconciliation. There's been an inquiry from staff, and I'll let Mike take this.
Thank you, Your Worship. Certainly one of the easier reports of the evening, and I know there's a couple contentious ones down the line, so we'll get you started on a more simple one. End of the day, this is something that came to light as a holiday in 2020. It was pushed through, and we noticed it wasn't here. We wanted to give this council the opportunity to get ahead of things in light of some of the union decisions that have been made in the province. There was 4 major unions that have forced this holiday to come into effect. And to sum it up, we would be joining 6 of our other neighboring communities in the municipality by taking this day on as well. So it's there for council's consideration, and I'm certainly here to help if you have any questions.
Councilor, are there any questions you wish to ask? Like through the chair? Yep, go ahead, Martin.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. First of all, I was reading the report and I can't seem to get the report now. So Middlesex County does not have this as yet, is that correct?
I can speak to that. They do not have, the county council does not have it, but they have given it to Martin. They have given it to Strathmere Lodge, the RNs, care workers have it. Yeah, so, and they are a division of the county, but the governance aspect of it outside the realm of long-term care do not have it at this point.
And I noticed that this year it will be on a Saturday. So I don't see the rush to have it on. And everybody will be able to celebrate National Day of Truth and Reconciliation on a Saturday. And we just signed a contract with the outside worker for 3 years. So I believe this is something that should be in a contract issue. And so I will not be voting in favor of this.
Is there any other comments? Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor Mayhew. I'd just like to say that I agree with Councillor Vink's comments, given that it's falling on September 30th this year. Perhaps we could defer it and take a look at it in the future.
I think it is inevitable at some point in time we will be doing this, but yes, I certainly appreciate your comments. Yes, Councillor Choi, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I understand that it falls on a Saturday, but similar to Canada Day, that can fall on a weekend and you still get a holiday.
Yeah. In lieu of,
statutory day.
Yeah.
So I
It's
will
like
be.
A good example would be Remembrance Day. Remembrance Day falls on Saturday or Sunday. You get a day off in lieu of that. Yeah. Yeah. And that would be stipulated in the condition. Yeah. The contract. Any further questions? Yes, Don, please go ahead.
Yes, I believe the county doesn't have Family Day either, do they?
Oh, I think that's a statutory holiday.
They use it as a floater day, I believe. And I think Remembrance Day is one that some have and some don't as well. There's definitely a mix match out there in the industry.
Yeah. Okay. Lots of conversation on this. Yes, Mark.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Mayhew. I think on Family Day, I get my mail delivered. It's not a federal holiday. It's a provincial holiday. And some of these holidays are kind of confusing because some people take some of them and other people don't. But I think I will support this holiday because I think didn't you say it was inevitable, you felt? Was that the word?
Yeah, I don't have a crystal ball, but it is going to be part of future negotiations. There's no question about it.
But at the same time, I see, our municipal employees, they get Easter Monday, almost schools get Easter Monday, banks, I think. You get Remembrance Day. Not very many people get Remembrance Day. This one I will support though.
Okay. Any further comments? The chair is asking for some direction on this. There's a recommendation for you. Is there a mover and a seconder? Okay, a seconder. Okay, any questions? All in favor of the recommendation? All opposed? Motion is defeated. But again, I'm sure this will come before us. Yeah, two gateway signs are deferred. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Schultes, for doing that. Municipal Community Gardens was moved to the consent agenda. We've done that. Agricultural agreement is next. Mike, you're doing this one. Mike Henry?
Yeah, so the balance of the reports on the agenda are all driven by council one way or another. They've either been requested by council to be analyzed and brought forth and or fall under our procurement or our policies as such for your approval. This is one of these. It was brought forth and we were asked to bring back the details of the agreement and the nuts and bolts that are assigned to it, and that includes the dollar values that come with it. I would like to keep all the personalities out of it. It's a sensitive area. It's a thing in our community that everybody has. But these agreements are come in a lot of different forms. So while the numbers are there for council's consideration, unless you're really passionate about it, I just like to go with the recommendation where that you direct the Chief Administrative Officer and myself to negotiate with the Glencoe Agricultural Society in some sort of alternative agreement.
Okay, are there any questions that you would like to ask administration through the chair? Yes, Councillor Vink.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. When I was reading this, I believe we've already just signed an agreement with the Agricultural Society for another 20 years. So, I'm not sure why we're rechecking this.
I think it goes perhaps beyond the numbers in terms of some of the principles of the agreement. Am I wrong in that? It goes, Mike, could you address that question from Councillor Vink?
In the agreement, it states that every 5 years, you can sit down and revise or look at the agreement again. We only brought the report forth because we were asked, and we gave the nuts and bolts on what the math looks like in reality, and that's what we were asked to do, and that's what staff did here.
Okay. Yes, Deputy Mayor Schultes.
Thank you, Mayor Mayhew. I know there's been some questions as to why there's a 20-year agreement in place. Previous to that, the last revision of this agreement was in 1995, almost a 25-year duration. So we reduced that to a 20-year agreement this time, so that the Ag Society could make some long-term budgeting plans. And we included the cost of living going retroactively and moving forward. With this being the only large accessible facility to rent in Southwest Middlesex and the center for most community functions, I'll move that we take no action on this and leave the current agreement in place.
Okay. Councillor Vink.
Second.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions? Councillor McGill, please go ahead.
If we leave the current agreement in place, could there be, there's always details that need to be ironed out. Would that not still give us room to talk about how to deal with certain issues that might arise?
From the chair's point of view, I think the Agricultural Society are exceptionally important to our community. They are, in view of their recent history and the success that they have had in these lotteries, they have become, I don't like to use the word service organization loosely, but they are in fact go beyond animal husbandry and Glencoe Fair. These funds cannot be used, many of the funds that they have cannot be used for light, heat, and water. It can only be used for purposes of charitable organizations within our community. In fact, I would not hesitate to say that they are aside from Southwest Middlesex Council, they probably donate more money to charities in this area than anyone else other than the municipality. So they are exceptionally important to us, as are their buildings. I think that there has to be, and I think that we have already started it in my conversations with their CIO. The Ag Society feel like they can approach administration at any time they want. And they have been doing so. So I think the dialogue has to continue. I would not hesitate to support this motion that's on the floor at all. But going forward, I think that there has to be some connectivity between administration and the fair board. Your mayor goes to most meetings. All right, I'm a member of that association, and I am there. And if I have any concerns, I always advise our administration of them. But yeah.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm just going to add in, and it's to support the deputy mayor's point and your point, Councillor McGill, is in the background. It states here that the agreement was amended and approved by Southwest Council in 2019. So we're talking, we're going to come up to 5 years, and it says right in the agreement that the review is permissible after 5 years. So we'll be just sitting with them after 5 years and say, what do we need to tweak? What do we need to change? And I think that supports both groups, both camps of what you're trying to accomplish.
Exactly. Yeah. And Mike and I had discussed this. We didn't know what council's wish would be, but we just want to have a chat. So to speak. Yes, go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Mayhew. I want to put words in anybody's mouth, but Mike, did you say that there was a request to re-examine this?
It's in the background here.
Okay, there was
Yeah.
300, over 300 pages. of-
Yeah. No, it
That's
was
stuff that-
requested that the terms of the agreement be looked at. And
Who requested it?
one of the absent councilors brought it up as an initial notice.
Okay, so it came from a councilman.
Yes, correct. All of the reports, with the exception of one, have come from the request of either council or
Yeah.
part of our policies.
Oh, just a reminder to council that administration generally only do reports when they're asked for by council. Okay. All right, there's a motion on the floor. It's been moved and seconded. I'll call the question. Are there any more questions you wish to direct to the people who made that motion and seconded it? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried. Five, animal control bylaw bite regulations. Alan, this has come to our attention.
Yes, thank you, Your
And
Worship.
I'll let you take this.
Okay, so basically, there's been some issues isolated by our enforcement team that we can't take any action when there's bites from municipal side. This is the most simplistic and straight to the point fix that I could come up with. It's been backed by the Humane Society as an appropriate action, and I'll leave it to the floor for any questions.
Okay. Any questions we have been directed by the Humane Society to and through Alan's study of municipal manners suggest that we address this immediately. In regard to dog bites, are there any questions you wish to pose to them? The recommendation is before you. Would someone be strong?
Just one quick
Yeah,
question. if
you
I
bet.
could, Mayor
Go
Mayhew.
ahead.
I just see that I think there's a $300 penalty if there is a dog bite. Who enforces that? Is that our bylaw, or does the Animal Control Society or Animal Control do that?
They're one and the same in this situation, I believe.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay. Is there a mover and a seconder to adopt the recommendation? I'll move the recommendation. All right, thank you. Any discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Arnie, welcome to Southwest Middlesex. How are you? I hear you're going to give us the first half of 2023 building activity, eh?
That's correct.
Good, you go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Mayhew, and through the mayor to council. I'm pleased to be here today to present a very good news report to council for building activity for the first half of this year. In summary, we've seen the biggest highlight is the number of new dwellings approved this year. We're at 24, where last year at the same time we were at 7. So we've gone from 7 new dwellings to 24 in the first half compared to last year. So we're very pleased with that, and it's certainly bucked the trend of the county. So Certainly, when number wise, Southwest Middlesex is leading the way with being very healthy this year.
Good.
There's 3 tables in my report. I briefly go through them. If there's any questions, please interrupt. The first table is just a summary of building permit fees collected this year, number of permits issued, and the value of construction. We've collected over $270,000 in building permit fees this year. The cost to Middlesex Center this year billed out so far is approximately $50,000. Table 2 provides a very detailed summary of the types of permits that were issued this year. Again, summarizing from single families to semis, residential renovations, and agricultural buildings primarily. You'll see in the second quarter of the 65 permits we issued this year, 51 of them were issued in the second quarter this year. So again, 51 of the 65 permits were issued in the second quarter. It's a very busy quarter this year. And I believe 21 of the 24 dwelling units were issued in the second quarter as well. Third table is a summary showing what's going on in the county amongst the 5 municipalities that we provide inspection services for. So if you want to compare how Southwest Middlesex is doing compared to the remainder of the county, we give comparator numbers of the first half of this year and of last year with each municipality. And again, Southwest Middlesex's totals significantly better than where we were last year this time, where others are struggling a little bit. North Middlesex and Adelaide Metcalfe have done very well. Lucan Biddulph and Middlesex Center have slumped a bit with the slowdown of new dwellings specifically. And if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Okay, Arnie, thank you very much. Yes, Councillor Vink, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. Arnie, is there a difference in the cost for building permits for single family detached or semi-detached or townhouses?
Yeah, through the mayor, it's the same cost is per dwelling unit. So whether it's a single, a semi, or a townhouse, it's the same permit fee, base fee.
Okay. Any further questions? Yes, Deputy Mayor, please
Thank
go
you, Mayor
ahead.
Mayhew. Just like to thank Arnie for the report. On average, how long does it take to submit a building permit and get approval if things are in order?
Yeah, so through the mayor to the deputy mayor, it's sort of the rules of the building code. Depending on the type of building permit application comes in, we're on the clock to issue it within a certain time frame. So for a typical house or farm building, it's 10 days, and we are inside the 10 days to get a building permit from a complete application. Typically 7 to 9 days is where we're at.
Perfect. I've had a few inquiries, so
Yeah.
thanks.
Good. Oh. And I think you ain't seen nothing yet, right?
Okay.
Good. Arnie, thanks again from the chair. We appreciate all you do. And we also appreciate the way you handle people. It's really good too, and it shouldn't go unsaid, okay?
Thank you.
Recommendation is to receive this for information. Is there a mover and a seconder for this, please? Don McCollum, seconder. Councillor Vink, questions? All in favor? Morrow, you're up to bat here now. River Drive property. Oh, just a minute. Oh, Arnie, do I hear you've got an award? Huh? Did I hear you received an award?
Yes, humble as I am.
I thought I saw a medal on your chest or something.
Yes, there's some smiles today.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm happy to let council know, yesterday at AMO, the Association of Municipalities of Ontario's conference, Middlesex Center was one of 3 recipients of the PJ Marshall Award. The award's issued for innovative ideas and practices across the province. And our building division was recognized for both our shared service agreement that we have with our 5 municipalities and our involvement with establishing e-permitting, electronic permitting over the last few years. So
Good.
we're very pleased to get that.
Well deserved. Okay.
Thank you.
Put you up on the screen.
Yeah, there.
That's it. Look at that.
That's Mayor David and I.
You're on TV, Ernie. There you are.
Congratulations, Arnie, if I may add in, and to take the deputy mayor's question, I think that's only going to help us with the the expedition of some of the permits with the new intake and, assigning. So good stuff.
Laurel, you're up to bat now. We are discussing the River Drive property transfer. This has been a long journey for Southwest Middlesex. And I think it has perhaps something to do with our extreme weather events that we have had and will no doubt continue as we've seen tonight. Okay, good example of that. So I'll let you introduce this to council.
Thank you, Your Worship. Before council report regarding the River Drive property transfer, the CAO and I have met with property owners on several occasions to discuss the property transfer. It was decided to reduce the length of road closure, which then only involved 2 property owners. If you refer to the map, you'll see it indicates in yellow the private road that will be closed. Included in the report is the terms and conditions requested by the property owners in order to complete the land transfer. And before you use 4 recommendations, and I'm here to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from council? Yes, Councillor McGill.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Mayhew. From a practical point of view, how does a private road work? Because it looks like there's, multiple properties on it. So they all can use the road, but they jointly own it somehow? Is that what?
Through the mayor, basically, there's only really 2 affected property owners down there. So that will be considered a private road for them to access their land.
So then they have to somehow share the upkeep of that road? Like, does one of them own one part of the road and the other one own? I don't understand that.
Yeah, I understand what you're asking. So basically what we're doing is we're dividing that road in half. So one half of the road will be designated to one of the owners and the other half will be to the other owner, because the way it works out, just the property to the east is all one landowner and to the west is all one landowner. So we're just dividing that road in half and they get 50% of the road. That makes sense.
Any follow-ups, Councillor McGill?
What would happen in a case like this if the landowner said, well, no, we really don't want to take it back. We want the municipality to keep ownership of it and keep maintaining it for us.
Through your mayor, they will take the property. They both agreed to take 50% of the road.
There's been
with the terms and conditions that are stated in.
Yeah, and I'll let Mike Henry chime in here. There's been some extensive conversation. On
Yeah,
this. Mike.
yeah, thank you, Your Worship. This part was already actually council's decision to do this, and the decision was to turn this back over to the landowners. You sent us away back on May 10th to sit down with the landowners and negotiate how they would like to divide it up. At that time, we thought there was maybe 3 people involved. We were able to narrow it to 2, and then we talked about terms, and we're bringing back those terms to you as was requested. So that's what Marlo's brought forth to you today. We have everybody in agreement. They have their terms on taking care of legal and some gates at the properties, and then the cost associated with the finalizing.
Great. Okay, yes, Deputy Mayor Schultes.
Thank you, Mayor Mayhew. I apologize. I lost my internet here, so I don't have the report up. You did too. I just wondered where the gates will go and where the turnaround will go. I couldn't see on the map. Will there be gates in Big Bend Road, or will that remain open by and the other end?
Yeah, so there'll be gates at Big Bend Road, just at the edge of the road allowance. And then I guess I'm trying to go halfway down the block. It's kind of in a gully area. There's a wide open area where we can construct a turnaround. So we met on site with property owners and tried to determine the best area that would be good for them, plus would be good for us, because we're gonna have to get our equipment down there and turn it around. So it's kind of in a gully area, but there's a wide open area where we can actually construct a turnaround, get the equipment, and install the gates.
And there's no erosion issues there in that area?
No, it's a flat area, and I think it's going to work well for all parties.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, go ahead, Martin.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. What about emergency services tomorrow? You mentioned something about that. How would they utilize the gates?
Well, that's a fair question. The gates will have a lock and chain that's the property owners will have, because that'll be access into their lands. So if emergency services is called while they're working, they'll have to make sure that the gates are open so that they can access that point, because it will only be serving the two property owners down there.
Property. Yeah. Yeah, but our very often ambulances are accompanied by firemen. They would have the necessary tools to any locks or chains too. Maureen, what is the width of the gate? It would be a fairly big gate, 24 feet, 30 feet?
Yeah, I think one is 30 and one is 40.
Okay, big gates.
Yes.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay. Any further questions? Recommendation is before you. Would someone entertain the recommendation be moved? Councillor Vink, Councillor Choi, discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Moral number 2, road studies needs.
As stated in the report, the roads need study is a comprehensive report which assists the municipality with asset management and budget forecast for road maintenance, rehabilitation, and replacement projects. For you are 2 recommendations, and I'm here to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay. Are we within budget, Kristen, on this?
Yeah.
Yep,
Yes, we are. We
Oh,
are
that's
within
great. Well,
budget.
thank you. Any further questions? Yes, go ahead, Councillor Vink.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. Do we have a road needs study done, say, 10 years ago or whatever?
I'm not familiar if one has been completed within the last 10 years.
Okay, I thought they would reference to, I believe we have an existing road needs study. Because we have some sort of study on what roads to be tar and chip. Maybe you recall that, Councilor McCollum?
I'm not aware of another report that was done that I've looked and
It was a while ago. So maybe they,
we
wouldn't.
could locate it. It would be great assistance with the new consultant to help them with this current study.
Right.
And I'll search for it some more if we can try to find it.
Great. Any further questions? Yes, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor Mayhew. I'm just looking at the report quickly here. I think you said it would be done by November.
That is correct. When I looked at the schedule within the proposal, they were projecting that they would have a presentation to council in November.
That's good, because we may need some of that information for budget time this year.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. The recommendation, any further questions? I think we've got them all. Recommendation is before you. Is there a mover and a seconder? Councillor McCollum. Second, Councillor Vink. Moved and seconded. Last call for questions. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Wastewater treatment request for proposal. It's too bad Jody's not here for this. I know he was quite interested in it. Maureen, will you be walking us through this? Okay,
Yes.
please go ahead.
All right, thank you, Your Worship. Before council is report regarding the RFP for the Glencoe wastewater treatment plant infrastructure. In conjunction with the county solicitor, we prepared an RFP to ensure that all the requirements were met as stated in the WSP master servicing study. The RFP closed on July 12th, 2023, and we did not receive any bids under the direction of the county solicitor based on the municipal procurement policy. The municipality is permitted to single source for engineering consultant services. In doing so, this would allow us to keep the project progressing in a timely manner. Typically, engineering services are between the 15 and 20% of the project budget, and this bid submission falls within that range. Stantec is an experienced company with wastewater treatment infrastructure, and the proposal met the requirements of the RFP and is within our budget. Before you are two recommendations, and I'm here to answer any questions that you may have.
We are well within budget on this, are we not?
We are, yes.
Yeah, significantly so, which was very good.
That budget number, I think, also include the construction component of it, which won't be completed this year. This will just be the engineering.
Council, any questions you'd like to ask on this? Certainly is a good night to consider this, isn't it? Yep. Deputy Mayor Schultes.
Thank you, Mayor Mayhew. I've already discussed this with staff and they've given me the timeline, but maybe just for the public record, could we get an idea of what timeline this looks like from now till completion?
Yeah, so based on the schedule that I got in the proposal, we're looking to do the engineering this year. Hopefully get out for construction tender. I think it was March. Get the tender out for March and hopefully close in April.
Good. Okay, thank
Yeah,
you.
so we'll have shovels in the ground in the spring.
That's the plan.
Okay, that's good. Yes, Councillor Vink.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. I'm looking at the budget situation. I know we had funding from different sources for this project. Part of it's gas tax, of which I'd like to see some of that in Moulton Township and Wardsville. But anyway, so how is this going to be budgeted, this first part?
It already has been through your worship to Councillor Bake. It already has been. So it's part of the 3.82 that was already passed in budget. It's drawn from that. And then construction will come from the balance of those costs. So this was factored in as engineering as part of that project entirely.
If I could ask.
Yeah, one follow-up, yeah.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. But that would have been over a few years. Is that correct?
Yeah, generally what happens, and I appreciate the questions because generally what happens is you have a study done 1 year, your engineering's done in your next year and your construction is in your third. So you would pass the full budget amount at one point. In this case, what's happened is you had your study done, kind of gave you the ballpark price. In 2022, that came forth to you. You put it into 2023's budget. And then there was gas tax, there was OSIF funding, and then some from reserves. And I think it's slightly over $500,000 from reserves that came out of that. And the balance was debentured because I remember Councillor McGill asking some questions about this at the time as well. So that's where all that looped in. It seems before this administration actually kind of came together, you had one step that was out of step, and then we've caught you up.
Sure, I might add too that if we are to, we are entertaining, when these expected 300 homes over the next 5 to 8 years, if they come to fruition, we have checked our capacities, but this is required in order for the future growth, and that future growth will give us substantial assessment growth as well. That'll stabilize taxation for a good many years, so that's why it's so important to move forward on this. Okay, any other questions? Would someone accept the recommendation as circulated? Councillor Choi. Is there a seconder? Councillor Vink, thank you. Everyone's had a chance to ask some questions. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Mike, this is another one, the municipal programming versus rentals. This was a councillor did request administration for this report. You're prepared to give it, I understand.
I'm going to jump in here. Kevin co-authored the report, but I'm not prepared to take a brand new staff and.
Oh, yeah, I get it, Kevin, yeah. Kevin,
So-
I apologize. I'm sitting back there so quietly that
So there's a lot here, and I want everybody to really take heed of a few words here. You're sitting here with a guy that came up through Parks and Recreation, and I remember pleading and begging just to get certain things as a director and manager in those departments because they're soft services and they come with costs. Arenas don't operate on making money. Parks certainly don't, pools certainly do not, and programming doesn't either. The question that was asked of us is where's programming at? I think there was a lot of cancellations happening. Are they worth value? And I think the most important piece is we brought forth, how many users we actually have in certain in programming sectors, and how many things are actually getting used. And I can certainly point out, and it's undeniable, pickleball, drop-in pickleball is an extensive one. And I can tell you, with the arena coming back online here in a couple of weeks, we also had just obtained a grant to be able to put pickleball lines on the arena floor. So maybe things like that get analyzed. I think in the infancy and the changeover in staff, this report may have got a little bit overzealous in discussing certain facilities in the community, particularly when it comes to rental contracts, et cetera. So I would think, to give everybody kind of a nuts and bolts, programming does cost this municipality about $46,000. And that's inclusive of some of the rent we're paying out. Wardsville is a perfect example because we do pay rent. We do have programs up there. We have a cost associated with both. We don't get a lot of revenue back in, but we also don't have another facility to put these people in. And I think that's what it comes down to. We don't own something there. Here we have some programming that's in the train station. We don't see quite as large of a loss. However, we do see a loss because we're getting people in running programs and they're not actually paying us rent. And that's something that council, I think, needed to look at, needed to understand. Much like the Ag Society report, this is a business view of what this is. This is not the reality in what the community may feel when it comes to having services provided to them. And that's what's being put back to you. So I'll let you take your recommendations, and I will say the words that this administration serves at the will of council. And if you want to have those discussions, I can tell you that soft services are a well-being need in a community. They do come with costs, and now you've been determined or given what those costs actually are as requested.
Okay, any questions? Just perhaps a historical note on this, if I could, in amalgamation. Councillor Vink, you may realize this, the Arts and Music Center on Main Street, that building on Main Street, the gargoyles on the front, that was a municipal building at one time. And I know in amalgamation, it was in very rough shape. And it was sold. And at that point in time, to accommodate the loss of a municipal building, the Masonic Hall, an inquiry was made to use it. So that's how we ended up utilizing that newer facility. At the time, the building was examined and it was found in need of many things. And it was sold at that point. Questions? Yes, Martin, I saw your hand up there. Go ahead.
Mayor Allen, the only thing I want to say is that I certainly do not want staff to terminate the lease arrangement with Warsaw Masonic Hall. I think CEO Mike Henry explained it, that there are soft programs and there are recreational activities needed in each area. And so that's the first thing I'd like to see out of this recommendation.
Thank you. Any further questions? Kristen, if I could ask one, is the rent approximately $3,000 a year? Is that what it is? Approximately, or what is it? Am I wrong there?
That we pay
Yeah,
4,500.
4,500. Okay. 2,500. Okay. Yep, go ahead.
Your worship, I had some discussion all around, and certainly the input from council has been valuable over the past little while, and certainly some discussions you and I had over the last couple of days, and Councillor Troy for that matter too. So I'm to the understanding that the Masonic Lodge is in need of some upgrade and in need of some help. And I think there's an opportunity to maybe have some larger discussions with them on getting some of those improvements to happen. So it's a little bit more accommodating for us in the short term. It's a very short lease that we have with them, and that might just get us over the hump until there's a new facility in the works, pending this council's approval, of course, down the road.
Okay, that is a good suggestion, and it does give some direction in sync with the direction that I heard from Mount Horseshoe. Currently, are there any other comments? Councillor Choi.
Thank you, Mayor. So yes, I'm with Councillor Bank. I don't feel that we should be terminating the lease, but I do agree that we should be working with the Masons to hopefully do some upgrades to make it more comfortable for our programming. Recreation, the mayor and I just went to AMO, and one of the sessions we both sat on was the importance of recreation, parks and recreation. And a lot of what they had to say was very interesting, that parks and recreation reduce costs in healthcare, social services, and the justice system. It creates jobs, fosters tourism, and makes communities more attractive to live. I do not want to see it change to a rental program. I don't think it will be as affordable for the community members to participate in the activities that are provided. The service that we provide allows people to use the recreation at a decent cost in their neighborhood, which also allows them to say they go bring their kids to the children's program for 1.5 hours, and then they go do their groceries, shopping, and everything in town. So I don't feel that we should be changing it over to the rental side of it either. But also some of these numbers, they say it's an annual number of participation, but it was only up until the end of July, I think, majority of the programs ran. So they aren't even a full grasp of what, how many participants are participating in the activities. I know my boys both went to the children's programming in Wardsville, and there were over 20 children there, and they were having a ball. Like, it was just, it was fantastic. So like I said, I would like to keep the lease with the Masonic Hall with conversations on improving it. And I would also like to see that programming that we have been utilizing, that we continue doing it.
Thank you, Councillor Choi. Alan, we may need your assistance on a new motion on this one, so just get your ticker working there, okay? All right. Deputy Mayor Schultes.
Thank you, Mayor Mayhew. I requested this report, and I'm not surprised to see how much it's costing our ratepayers. I'm sure that the void can be filled through libraries, schools, businesses, and other organizations for this type of programming. There is people out there that have shown an interest in wanting to take it on. What did surprise me was the termination of the lease agreement with the Wardsville Masonic Hall. So with that being said, I will not support the termination of the lease agreement, but I will make a motion to support the end of municipal programming.
Any comments? A seconder on that. I have to ask for a seconder on that. Is there one? Yes, Martin.
Mayor Allen, yes, I think we will need a clarification on what the motion is going to be, because I'm already not quite clear what we're going to be voting on.
Well,
The only thing I do want to point out with the Masonic Hall, I know there's a bit of a loss. I felt that some of the calculations were a little unfair. For instance, and I know I'm not knocking the train station. It's an iconic piece for Southwest Middlesex, but we just put in $200,000 for a deck there, and that's not included in the cost. So we weren't, some of these figures that were presented to us, in my mind, wasn't apples with apples. And so therefore I want it quite clear what we're voting on.
just a correction, it was more than a deck, it's the drainage around that station too, and the water problem that we had, which was significant. Yes, Mike.
I'm gonna try to help guide here, as best we can.
Clock's ticking.
So you have some, it's clear that you want the Wardsville Masonic Hall stay put. So that's easily just removed. And now you've got that, I assume. Some of the programs are quite extensive, and maybe the location of them with the arena coming back online, there could be a relocation, and they be done as a drop-in program as opposed to having a programmer that either doesn't show up or doesn't get there, and that we can help coordinate that, but they have to be successful. 445 people playing pickleball, it might be worth looking at that as an option, particularly when we have a grant in that regard, and they can do it as a drop-in program, but at the arena. So maybe it's a further assessment that it would be beneficial if we did that. Right now, the pickleball courts that we help align programs with are outside. And then when they do come back online, when it is outside, maybe it's inside, and maybe we evaluate that and do that. So maybe it's just accepting the report, taking out the Masonic Hall, and asking us to monitor over the next little while and come back with the report. And that gives Kevin some time as well to get to know everybody a little better.
Just to add to that, Kristen, I think, would recall too, there's counselors that have asked for public opinion on what they want through surveys and things like that, and activities were paramount in those surveys that were put out to the public. In fact, paramount enough that I thought it was the most requested thing was programming of activities for children and adults on a non-competitive programming is what it was referred to as, and that is what programming services that we're doing. So if in fact you want public input, and if in fact you're going to listen to the public, they asked for this in very large numbers. Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Mayhew. I'd just like to point out that there is people in our municipality that offer services like yoga and do resent the fact that their taxpayers are being used to run competition against them.
There's various levels too that I grew up in a world of competition, and sometimes you have to look at what is being offered and what you can offer that's different. There are various levels of programming that can be offered as well. Yes, Councillor McGill, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Mayhew. I do like the sharing of resources. I feel a lot of these facilities are underutilized, and so if we can use them, and then the group that happens to own them can use them too, like the Wardsville Hall or the high school, it's a great savings and a better use of resources. And then this report doesn't mention the Glencoe Fair Board or the Melbourne Fair Board, but we give them both money. And in Melbourne, the facilities are on the Caradoc side, but the people that live on our side of that split community, they can use them too. So
good point.
It's and I do like having these programs, like 445 people playing pickleball and 81 and a multi-sport program at Glencoe High School. I feel that's significant. And as far as competition with the private sector, well, you could use the example of, I know cities like London and even a little place like Warwick Township, they have gyms, but sometimes they're run in cooperation with the YMCA, that kind of thing. So there's even private arenas. Municipalities sometimes are in a little competition with the private sector. It can't be avoided, I don't think.
I think it could be. Okay, Alan, you got your hand up. Can you help us out of this one?
Yes, Your Worship. I believe that a prudent form of attack on this is that the deputy mayor did move something, and then we kind of got a little off track. I believe what I'll do is I'll interpret his initial resolution.
Okay.
If there's a seconder, then we'll have a vote on that.
Okay.
And then we'll move forward from there.
Let's get out of the weeds on this, okay?
Okay, so, and with this, I'm gonna, as I've done in a previous meeting, look to the mayor, deputy mayor to make sure that I have what he was trying to articulate. So what happened is that he asked for the termination of the Masonic Hall to be removed from the original resolution. So I'm gonna read it without it. That report regarding municipal recreation programming based rental be received for information, and that council directs staff to cease any coordination of programming through third-party venues, and that council directs staff to take a rental-based approach and promote our own municipal facilities to encourage our community programs to occupy these spaces accordingly.
That's got it.
Okay,
So you're looking for a second on that.
okay, I'm looking for a second, and that motion is, we retain our rental of the Masonic Hall. And is that, do I interpret that as programming, it's recommended that programming be suspended in that?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, yeah, as long as that's clear with council.
Originally, if I could, originally it was just the programming. I realized how much money we were losing on it. So I thought it would be better to collect the rent from people that want to provide this service. I didn't ask for the Masonic Lodge to be included in this. It just was. So I should have just asked them to take it.
Staff acknowledged that earlier when I said there was some overzealous portion of this. I think when we found out the loss, it got included.
Okay, Alan,
So your worship, if you see no second, then we can move on to alternate items.
all right. Is there a seconder for this? Okay. Any further questions? Yes, Amy, please go ahead, Councillor Choi.
I'd like a recorded vote.
Yes, Councillor Vink.
I have a question.
Mhm.
Okay, I just want to make sure it's clear what I'm voting on. So if we vote for this, we're voting on not having any third parties in a rental property. Is that correct?
No, we're actually allowing third parties to rent our services. Instead of carrying all the costs ourselves, we're going to collect rent for people who want to provide these programs. That's what the.
I think.
So is that the only ones that can rent it or your motion?
Whoever
is?
wants to rent facilities is welcome to, but I just know that there's people who in our community that want to supply these programs. And this gives them the opportunity to do it at their facilities. And we then collect the rent instead of losing.
But are we still going to be able to have a few programs to roll?
That would be encouraged.
Yes, Amy.
Thank you. Currently, are the third parties that are interested in renting to do their own programming, are they not allowed to rent to do their own programming in our facilities?
That wants to rent a
Yeah,
facility
currently
can rent a
they,
facility.
Currently, any third party that wants to rent one of our facilities or the Masonic Hall, which has been the case in the
No, I
past.
realize that. Just the point is somebody doing yoga or anything like this is not going to
Okay.
obviously.
It is, yeah. The only problem I see is speculative. We're assuming it will be out there to do this. It is somewhat speculative. But anyway, go on. Any other questions? Because we want to move on this. Okay, has everyone got an understanding of what they're voting for? Yes.
I'm sorry, Mayor, I just gotta make sure I'm clear what I'm voting on here, so, so basically what I'm hearing is we're not really changing anything that we have right now.
Mhm.
So really all we've done, Councillor Vink, is taken out any reference to the Masonic Hall, other than it is a third-party venue. So what the motion that the deputy mayor's put forward is that the report be accepted for information, and that we stop doing any programming ourselves or working with people that are having programs out there, and we're going to try to rent those people those facilities. That's the nuts and bolts of it. So if you have somebody that has yoga right now, we're not going to convene the yoga person to be in the train station. We're going to turn to the yoga person and say, if you'd like to rent the train station, you may do whatever you like with that, but this is the rental facility that we have.
Can I just add with the exception of pickleball?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Yes, yeah, sorry. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I think I'll have a hard time supporting this. I just feel as if Wardsville need that programming, but anyway. Mark, I'm sorry, I missed your hand there. Go ahead, Councilor McGill.
Just when we rent our facilities out, usually really it's at a loss. You know, people buy ice time. We're not making money on that. It's at a loss.
Cool.
So this is showing all this supposed lost revenue from these programs. I guess if you wanted to do a similar kind of calculation on facilities we rent out, that could be shown that all loses money too, like arenas lose money, swimming pool loses money. I'm pretty sure the Appin Hall loses money on what we rent it for, but they're all a good thing to have in our community. There's services we provide.
Okay. The motion, there's a motion on the floor. It has been seconded. I'm going to call questions for the last time, and then I will call the vote. Yeah, this is a recorded vote. Alan, you'll be asking for the vote on this?
Yes, Your Worship.
Okay. Then we'll call the question. Alan, please proceed.
Okay, I'm going to go left to right with the mayor last, just so you're aware of the how I'm going to do this. So Councillor Vink.
No.
Deputy Mayor Schuldeis.
Yes.
Councillor Don McCollum. Councillor Mark McGill.
No.
Councillor Amy Choi.
No.
Mayor Alan Mayhew.
No.
Your Worship, the motion is defeated, and then we should move on to an alternate solution.
Okay. You, Alan, obviously have a feel for the discussion of council that we want to continue to rent the hall and to offer our programming until such time that a facility is built or a new facility comes to fruition. What would you suggest?
Your Worship, in this situation, I think we could receive for information and have staff further monitor.
Okay.
And maybe I think we can maybe stay in that pocket.
Yeah, status quo.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
As a suggestion,
All right.
but I need a member of council to.
Okay,
explain
so the chair will ask that the report be received for information purposes only. Is there a movement for that? Yeah, okay. All right, is there a seconder? That we receive the report for information purposes only. Okay. Then moved and seconded. Are there any questions? Yeah, the chair will allow one of the people in the gallery to speak. It's my prerogative. And go ahead, Denise, go ahead. But I do suggest you try to keep it brief if you can, because we have a lot of stuff to unpack here. Okay.
This summer, that's what they did. and people go through it. And it's really something that is that kind of information, local people, so that.
Thank you. We have a motion on the floor. It's been moved and seconded. Any further questions? I'll call a question. All in favor? There's no. Yes, go ahead.
I'd just like to put in a stipulation that if a program is redundant, that staff would have the power to get rid of that program. So, I mean, you have programs that only 2 or 3 people are showing up. And then you know, we should be encouraging that type of program.
Yeah, I think that's being done to some degree now. Sam is on top of that, and it has to be. It has to make participation sense. They call it. Yeah.
I think there's an opportunity, Your Worship, for us to record some things in light of the newness of all the situation and come back. And obviously it's a point well received. That's something we would do regardless in every facet that we operate in. So we will do that and come back to council responsibly, and probably even at budget time with maybe some recommended changes to what allocation for programming.
The chair understands that there is a mover and a seconder on this motion, and the chair also understands that this is just an open vote. Am I correct? All in favor? All opposed? Motion's carried. Kristen, we have 8F finance, a consideration of a utility billing. Could you walk council through this?
Yes, sir. This is a fairly standard report. There was the staff contacted the owners about abnormally high consumption amounts on readings, and unfortunately they were away and returned, discovered the leak, isolated it and repaired it, and are seeking forgiveness on the sewer portion that is higher than their average consumption.
Good. This has come before council in the past. That water did not go into our sanitary system, so therefore we are exonerating them from that charge. The recommendation is before you. Is there a mover and a seconder on this? Deputy Mayor Schuldice, seconded by Councillor Choi. Discussion. All in favor? Carried. Voucher report was moved to the consent agenda. The notice of motion regarding branding was deferred. Correspondence and petitions, I have none. Unfinished business, and Mike Henry, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's none. And new business, grand opening of arena. We are looking at September for this. And Mike, I would appreciate very much if you could share some of the conversation that you and I had about the ice installation, the benefits of perhaps having this in September, but the advantages of having our ice service in when this occurs. And, would you like to speak to it, or I can reiterate that conversation, but I'd rather you do it.
Yeah, I'm happy to, Your Worship. So I guess it's a very packed September. Everybody going back to school. There's a lot of events. There's the fair, and then you're going to get into hockey season when October turns the corner, and you're going to be into the thick of things. One thing I just want all council to understand, and I've explained to a few of you individually, is when the fair is done, we'll call that the 25th of September. We have to go back the clock up 2 weeks prior to that, and that's when we start to chill the floor. That's not normal. This is new. It's a new system, new floor, everything else, and you don't want to, shock that thing. So it's got to be done on a very, very gradual basis. So 14 days before the 25th, you'll start to see that floor drop, and then you'll be able to take it extensively from the 25th on. If the 30th of September was favorable to everybody, Kevin could have some substantial ice in and everything looking pretty good in the building for a good presentation of what the facility will be. And it still is prior to hockey all entering the building for the winter. So if that's a idea, the 30th is a date that has been proposed that seems to work for the community. And we'll see if it works for council under consideration.
If I could add to that, what Mike Henry stated, we had a chat on this, and I apprised Mr. Henry of some of the events. We have the Warsaw Block Party, we have the Legion Barbecue, we have the fair, and that takes up a lot of the Saturdays, but the 30th is wide open. And I think if we're going to show our arena off to the public, I think it would be a good idea to have the ice in and the coloration on the ice too, the color on the ice, I think, as well. It adds a little bling to it, Kevin, you could say. And it's certainly up to council, but I just want to apprise you of the discussions that we had early this afternoon, where centered around the feasibility of September 30th, to Saturday. What's council's wish on it? Yes, go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor Mayhew. I'm just trying to follow what was said about the floor there. Will the fair be able to use the arena this year? They will. Okay. Okay. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we've got pretty good air ventilation in there now. Yeah, there won't be any moisture on it. No, there won't be.
So are you recommending 30?
I would entertain someone to move the 30th. I would certainly support that recommendation. Yeah, I'm just looking at the community calendar, and Warsaw's got a function on, Glencoe's got a function on, the fair's got the function, and it just not only that, I mentioned this to Mike Henry, that Kevin's plate is really full the weekend of the fair. You know, your guys, just as your folks are busy on Canada Day, so too will they be busy on the fair. You have to keep an eye on that. That's one of the largest event of the year. Though it's not under our municipal banner, we take a lot of responsibility on that. And it would be very difficult for Kevin to have a grand opening and clean up a fair. You know, keep an eye on that at the same time. Yeah, go ahead.
Just to let you know, that's also coincides with the National Day of Truth and Reconciliation, this September 30th. It's the same day.
Yeah, I think so.
Sure,
Yeah, good idea. Wear your orange shirts. I got one. Good idea. Councillor Choi, you're pretty good at this sort of conversation. What do you think?
Is it staff that's preparing and planning the grand opening?
As of the circumstances with the committee, and now I'm getting into that if we have to, but that's the plan, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would it be beneficial to have the recreation committee put together?
Yeah, and that was part of the reason Councillor Choi of postponing it to the 30th, not the highest priority, but it was important, and we think we could squeeze a meeting in for that. Go ahead.
I misspoke. I apologize. Staff will be able to help with it more readily on the guidance of that, but Kevin was planning on having a meeting prior to, and this gets him some time to get that in.
Yeah, so yes, and it's important. We'll fast track that, Councillor Choi. And that came up in our discussion that Mike Henry and with Alan was certainly part of that discussion too, as usual. And we can squeeze that in. Yeah, and it'll be good. We'll have a wholesome discussion on that. Okay, yes, Councillor Choi.
I'll move the recommendation for the grand opening for September.
September 30th, is there a second? Councillor McGill? Questions? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Okay, I think in view of the hour and the burden, Councillor Choi and I will give you a briefing on AMO at a later date. Is that okay with you, Amy? Announcements? Any? There are no closed sessions. The bylaws are, we'll do these in two steps. The bylaws are number 16 on your agenda, the bylaw 2023/64/68/69. Be read as presented, and the bylaw 66 and 67 be given first and second reading only. Is there a mover and a seconder for that? Councillor Vink, thank you. Martin and Councillor McGill, thank you. Discussion? All in favor? Carried. And we have several important bylaws here. And the drainage bylaws, the comprehensive animal control bylaw 64, the Dimog drain 65, the Moore Goff drain 66, the Black drain 67, the confirming bylaw 68, and the zoning amendment 69 P6 regarding 6422 Gentleman Drive. Is there a mover and a seconder for those bylaws? Yes.
Your worship, we should just move those. We're looking for the second resolution that the Amy Choi has stepped back from.
Okay, all right. There is a conflict on that with Amy, okay? Okay. But you need these to be adopted, correct?
Which one was all of it?
The
Yeah.
Dimog?
It's
Okay, the Dimog, and what was the other one? The
Just
just the Dimog, okay, move that the Dimog train 2023/66. No, the Dimog train 2023/65 rather. The Dimog train be approved as presented. Councillor Choi will be stepping out of this. Yes,
just for clarification, your worship, it's that bylaw 2023/65 Dimog Drain 2023 be given first and second reading.
okay, first and second reading only.
Yes, please.
Move it. Deputy Mayor, Councilor McCollum. Questions? Directing to Alan for sure. Okay, all in favor? Okay. All right, no problem. Listen, there's a lot of stuff. That's what happens when you go to a convention for 3 days. And then you have a council meeting, but your CAO is giving you a 400-page council agenda. Get at her. But anyway, thank you. Thank you very much, staff. Thank you, council. There was some contentious issues there, and everyone was extremely well behaved at this horseshoe today. And that's, we don't always agree, but we can agree to disagree, okay? You're a good bunch tonight. Thank you. Oh, motion to adjourn at 8:10. Can't see it, pick my glasses on. Yeah, I don't need a seconder for that. Not asking for one.